Hi, everyone. This is Samantha K, and this is another episode of the Samantha K Experience. Welcome to episode 11 of season 2, and I hope everyone's doing well. Um, Tonight, I'm going to do something a bit different. I've been doing this podcast off and on for a couple of years now, and I've had a few setbacks here and there, and a lot of stops and starts. But I just want to take the show in a different direction for this episode. I want to talk about like some personal things that I've noticed about myself, and I'm pretty sure some of these things that I've noticed about myself, I think, maybe you might have noticed about yourself as well, or someone you know. So, without beating around the bush, I'm just going to talk about a few things. I'm gonna try to keep it, simple, but it might get heavy. You never know with these things, but it might, you know, be a little bit serious at times, and it's okay. But that's what we're here to have a good time and smile through the pain. Let's laugh about it, you know. But I want to talk about something, and it was something that's been brought to my attention. Some things that I've been noticing about myself and that I'm prone to do. I had a discussion recently, and we talked about how I have the ability to want to be liked all the time. You know, I have this thing where no matter what setting I'm in, I always feel this need to want to make sure that I'm well received or well liked. And it has plagued me in a lot of things in my personal and my professional life. I will probably say things that I shouldn't say personally and without thinking, because my brain is usually thinking like, okay, the first thing that maybe comes off the top of my head. And I totally get that that's not a good thing. That's not a good habit to have, especially if you're like around people that you're not too familiar with, or like a workplace setting where you're supposed to be co-workers, and you're supposed to be doing your work, and socializing is, although it's not really frowned upon, but maybe it's just not something that you should do too often. But um I've just noticed like a few things about myself. I think it's this desire that I want to, and not so much impress someone, but I want to be considered likable, to the point where sometimes I've noticed that I've become rather um uh what's the term I'm looking for? I just become rather to me I feel like I'm annoying. And the reason why I'm putting myself on the spot is because I like to like analyze myself and see how maybe how others might see me as, because a lot of times I've always focused on what I think others will think of me. And I've had my friends come and tell me like, listen, Sam, that's not how I think. That's not what I feel, but you have to stop assuming that you know what people are thinking. And I've had moments where I'm just like, you know what? This is because I've always assumed the worst. And normally, I would say my personality, I want to say I'm more of an ambivert, but I will lean towards being an introverted person. Meaning that, I don't mind having conversations with people, but naturally, I would feel a bit uncomfortable depending on who the person is, especially if I feel that not threatened by the person, but I would feel a sense of like that person has a bit of power, or they're just more dominant, I tend to like, be a bit more quiet or reserved, because a lot of times I don't know what to say. I feel like I'm so worried about saying the wrong thing that I just don't say anything, or I don't know what to say because I am not comfortable. And I think it kind of plays into my social life. Like, I would consider myself relatively socially awkward. I'm putting myself under the microscope here because I feel like it was just, I don't want to lie to anyone. I don't want to really hide anything, but I know there's some things that I won't really go into detail on, but I just feel that personally, I feel that I have this thing where I just feel really insecure about myself, and I feel like it plagues on how I conduct myself. It just, like, even when I look at how I interact with certain people, and I'm like, in my head, I'm like, why are you like this? Like, at the end of the day, it's like, you know what? We're all human. We all make mistakes. And, you know, the idea is to try to learn from those mistakes and try not to repeat them again. And sometimes I have the foot and mouth disease. I get it. But, um, and I'm trying to like be a bit more better with what I say, like be a bit more mindful on where I say it and who I say it to. So I'm just a bit more self-conscious. I'm self-conscious because I felt like I won't I won't go into too much detail, but I would say, like, one time I was at some place, and I felt like once I came into this place, it was just this place of business. It wasn't a job or anything like that, but I, once I came into this place of business and I was asked like a series of questions, and I kind of like walked away feeling like I was being sized up, like, oh, well, who are you? And I guess that it is common amongst when you walk into an establishment that is not you're not familiar to you. But sometimes, like, got the feeling that maybe, just maybe, I was I was like, I was new to being in this place. I This was my first time being here, and I felt like, well, I'm not, I'm not familiar with like how things work, and what to expect. Like, I don't know what these expectations going in, like what these people were expecting of me. So when I walk in and I'm trying to do business, it's like, oh, well, who is she? Like, who, how dare she? And I'm just like, dude, you don't know me. So why would you automatically assume that I'll be a pushover or not to be taken seriously? You know, like, I think because a lot of it has a lot to do with some people have um different life experiences with others. Like, some people are um not sheltered and some people are sheltered. I would say, like, I kind of was sort of sheltered, so maybe some of my ways of communicating is will come off more simplistic, or more in a sense of like kind of like childlike, as opposed to some people who are like more like, okay, more serious and stuff like that. And I've noticed that it has affected my way of communicating with people. And I'm just like, well, you know what? You don't know my life story. And I'm not saying that I had the toughest life story. No, I don't. But I would say, like, you don't know someone, and you don't know what they may or may not have experienced. So just try not to judge too much. But when you get to a point where you are interacting with the world and you're seeing things from a different lens other than your own, it's kind of hard to, I would say I have more of an issue with feeling like I don't belong and feeling like I've been judged based off of you know the girl who sits in the corner and she's too quiet. A lot of times I just don't know what to say and I don't have anything to add. So maybe I'm just a bit too quiet. And also based off of if I'm really comfortable. And a lot of times I'm not comfortable. I think it has a lot to do with there are there are how can I say it? It's like I have a feeling of insecurity that makes me feel like I feel like I'm not worthy in being in that other person's presence, and it's very crippling because I feel like I could have done more of an effort to be more outgoing and more friendly, but I noticed that in part of my personality I am not. I don't think it's so much an issue of me not having the tools or never getting the tools or receiving the tools in order to be more of a better communicator, um, you know, with other people. I just think that I I live a very I would say I was very I don't want to say withdrawn. I have friends, of course, but I feel like at the end of the day, I wasn't allowed to do certain things growing up. I wasn't like, allowed to do the sleepovers and all that stuff um growing up. And I think, you know, I wouldn't say typically it would have it hurt me socially, but I think not going out and having like these type of experiences with other people or, doing whatever, like hanging out at the movies and all that other stuff. I don't think it helped that much in terms of my development. I do think it hindered me a bit, but at the same time, I don't think it hindered me as much as I think it's about a 50-50. But if I were a betting person, I would say it probably did more harm than it did actual good. Um, I think that when I talk to people and I get that sense of like, you know what? Yeah, I feel like this person or these people are like way better than me, way better than I ever could ever imagine or even hope for to be in life. And that could be just excuse me. That could be just me thinking all of this in my head because I don't know what everyone's situation is. I don't know what's going on in their personal lives. But I think a lot of times, like, I feel like maybe if I'm not educated enough or I'm just not, you know, I'm just not as outgoing, I'm not as successful. And I think it has crippled me to a degree where when I see other people who are successful, who have like the things that um, I probably would want for myself, I feel ashamed. I feel embarrassed because I feel like I'm not good enough to be in their circle. You know, like I feel like, you know, at my age I should have achieved more. I should have done more. I should have been more. And when, they have like these gatherings and, you realize you're not invited anymore, no one asks for you or even cares, or, well, that's just my thinking. But it's like I feel like I can't contribute to the conversation. I feel like I don't have anything to offer. I feel like, all of these years of since, we've all graduated and went off to do our own, thing and had lives and families, I feel like I'm such an underachiever. And I've had people say, "Well, Sam, you've done good things. You have your podcast. You're working. You're a college graduate. You've had all of these different like jobs and these little, these different life experiences. But for me, I just feel like I didn't do enough. I feel like I didn't try, and I feel ashamed of myself, and I feel like the people will see that shame. They'll, like, I think I feel like they will see it as, damn, you mean to tell me she's been around all of these years and she hasn't done more for herself? Like, what's wrong with her? Like, I feel that's what they think. And a lot of times I'm just like, I'm scared to open up and even have this conversation of, you know, not feeling like you're enough, um, and it's opened me up to self sabotage. Um, like, I've had moments where like I wanted to try out for something and I just completely and utterly, told myself, well, I'm not gonna try because I will never win, or I'm not good enough. I've denied myself writing contests. I've denied myself the ability to finish write a book. I've I've denied myself going back to school in certain cases. Maybe turned down maybe a job opportunity in the past because I felt I wasn't good enough. And it sucks because, when you have to be your own hype man and hype yourself up to get to the level that you want, and you can't do that because you don't have the confidence. It sucks because then it starts showing, and then other people start seeing all the cracks in your armor. And I said to myself, you know what? Do what you can. You know, it's not always perfect. You're not always going to get it right the first time, the second time, maybe even the third time. But like one of my uncles always told me, you got to try your best because that's all you can do is your best. And, you know, I always try to take that words of wisdom with me because I know that he was right. And it's hard to give up sometimes because, sometimes mentally I just be in a bad place, and I can't see myself out of that bad place. So I would say it's really hard for me to um feel like I achieved something. And sometimes it leads into me having to be reassured, and it just goes down a crazy path that I really don't like. But sometimes I just can't see myself getting out of it, and I feel stuck. So basically, I feel like this episode was just to give you guys just a little opening to like some of my inner thoughts and inner workings. Um, you're not gonna always get everything right, and I think having a great support system and people trying to push me to continue has helped a lot. And with recent events in my life, I feel like it helps a great deal to have that support system because I don't think I would have made it if I didn't. And I'm just grateful because a lot of people don't have that support system. They don't have, someone to tell them that it's going to be okay, that, you're going to get through this. You just got to keep pushing through. Some people don't have that. So I'm just eternally grateful to have people that, try to help me keep my head above water, try to keep me on the right path because these past few weeks have been very emotional. You know, um, it's a lot. I keep thinking to myself that hopefully in time things will get a lot easier. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not there just yet, but hopefully that this episode will help people understand me a bit more. And I'm not just about pop culture and um references and what we watching tonight and what we reading or what what we getting into on a um like what's the newest like club we're going to, or like what's the newest game. Honestly, I would leave with this last note. When you self-sabotage, you're not only hurting yourself, but you're hurting the other people around you. Only because you're denying yourself your truest potential, but you're also denying the people your greatness, your worth, your value. You know, let your artistry shine, you know? And sometimes it's good to let people see who you are and just try to shine. All right? Well, that's it for now. I'll be back with another episode coming up. We're gonna probably just talk about the new GTA 6 trailer that just came out, and let's get some thoughts and opinions on it. And yeah, that's it, guys. This is the Samantha K, and you're listening to the Samantha K Experience. Also, follow me on all of social media, Facebook, YouTube, and I believe Tumblr as well. If anybody still use Tumblr out there, hmm, who knows? All right, take care. Bye bye.